Hello everyone, welcome to week 2. So of course this week we are diving into research planning and game design documents. Now, I know that there's a lot of information coming at you in this class. Hopefully you're not feeling too overwhelmed. I know week 1 we're doing a lot. We're creating different games, we're playing different games, we're talking about career opportunities and paths. We're creating our introduction, we're getting to know each other, we're talking about a career in video game design. It's a lot. Week 2, if you opened up week 2, you probably noticed that there is a flood of modules, right? Module components. Week 2 is a lot. Don't panic, right? The truth is, there's a lot of information in this class. Our intro class sets you up for every other class in our entire program. And the truth is, there is a fair amount of foundational knowledge really needed to kind of move on or even determine if you want to move on in video game development and design. Now, while the truth is, technology is always changing, the tools are always changing, how we do and approach things is always changing, but a lot of the components of what makes a good game or how to design a game have been floating around a long time, and they're still rather relevant. This week we are going through a whole bunch of that information. So kind of keep that in mind. We're diving into a lot of new stuff, a lot of exciting stuff. The first thing we're going to be talking about really is coming up with a game design concept and documenting a game design idea. Now, the term game design document is used a fair amount in the industry as a individual documentation to keep track of everything, essentially. This term has been floating around since at least the 90s, as far as in the circles of game development. In fact, one of the examples that we're going to take a look at this week is the Chris Taylor game design document. I love this document. It is one of the best examples of a guide on how to create a game design document, which is kind of crazy because the document itself at this point is like 2 decades old. It has been floating around over 20 years. But even over 20 years ago, Chris Taylor looked at all the different game companies he's worked at, and every game company and every developer was doing something different, and how they were tracking all their information was different. And he got tired of the fact that if he moved from one company to another, there was no consistency on how to really see what they were doing, how to document what they needed. A game contains so many moving parts, and I mean that both figuratively and literally, right? There are so many elements that go into a game: story elements, practical elements, effects, models, scripts, just you name it, that go into every piece. And because of that, it's really important to have a good document or having good documentation so your team can know what to do, can access and see what other people have done, and keep track of it. Now, here we are 2 decades later. Is this the only system? No. Thank God there are other things in place. And so this week we're also going to be talking about some of the other ways that game developers are tracking this information and sharing this information. Again, one of the hiccups that a lot of newer game developers and indie game developers have is keeping track of all the documents and all of the information of the game. In fact, sometimes you'll see a game design document referred to as a game Bible, because it is the document, it is the book that you kind of follow that teaches you what to do, where to do, and keeps all the information. And part of the reason it's called that sometimes is kind of snarky because a game design document can get really big. Keep that in mind. I wanted to share that a little bit with you because you might hear that term kicked around within the industry as well. And so that's part of the reason we're doing it. Also, one of the things a good document does is it helps you focus on the most important elements of your game and avoid things that are going to keep your game from getting done in time. Like dealing with scope creep. Can't say that fast, right? Scope creep, which of course is adding more and more to your game as you learn more and more stuff, and it ballooning out of control so your game never gets launched. There are so many examples online of games that have been under development for years because they just keep adding to it and putting more in and doing more. Most of the time, that's bad. Okay. We're also going to be talking this week about our first large project, which is our card game project, creating a card game. This is a lot of fun. Fundamentally, we're going to be creating a card game and a board game. And I always get students to ask kind of what the difference is. Can I use cards in my board game? Can I use a board in my card game? The truth is, how are we going to define card game for this class is the key element or key component of this game the board or the cards? It's as simple as that. Most board games use cards, and a lot of card games use a playing board. That's okay. So don't think you can't create a board, but it shouldn't be a board game with cards. It should be a card game. You know, think of it like if you're playing maybe a card fighting game and the board shows you where to place the cards. That's still a card game. The board might make it more helpful or easy to play, but it's a card game, right? So hopefully that makes sense. We're going to be also writing up a proposal for your card game. Again, we're really focusing on trying to change your thinking from that of a game player to a game developer.